Hey, good morning, everyone. There's way too many of you over here. You will not hurt my feelings if you stand up and go to any of the other talks because they're all going to be better, but I really appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. So I'm Chris, Honda, extra points if you call me Honda. That is the, I guess, proper pronunciation, but you know, we're in America, it's Honda, so we're good. I am visiting you from Utah, but this is also my 4th year being here, and this is a fantastic community. So, I mean, thank you for having me out here. If you're not from here, I hope that you also feel how great this community is and that you continue to come back. Are you guys hearing me okay? Okay, gotcha. My hearing's terrible, so wouldn't help either way yeah, thank you for the confirmation. So this is a fun talk for me because historically I've given talks based on what I'm doing. And while this is still the case for this particular presentation, this is one of the ones where as a person, as a human being, I feel strong feelings for this. So I appreciate you coming here. And one of my rules that I usually write down, and I failed to do so this time, is I appreciate and feel that your thoughts are going to be much more impactful than anything that I have to say that I could put on a slide. So if you have questions, if you have an opinion that you'd like to share, I'd really, really like you to wave me down because my eyes are terrible, give a shout, and I don't want to hear your thoughts. I do want to hear your thoughts. Okay, and also, you're gonna see a bunch of QR codes, not a bunch, a few QR codes. None of them are malware, like we've been posting up throughout the facilities. I'm just not that clever. So this one is for feedback on here, please. Be honest. I know my presentations aren't the most attractive, nor are my presentation skills. So please, I want to get better, and you telling me how I could do better is going to be really helpful. This is the first security hire survival guide. I am currently in my 2nd round, and I'm in the thick of figuring out how to do it. I thought I could do it before, and the playbook would be the same, and it's not. Standard disclaimer, right? I'm not really gonna say anything that controversial or any hot takes as far as I know. I should have silenced Slack. That's my bad, rookie mistake. If you do anything and you wanna call me out for it, please make sure that it's a good thing. Make good choices, talk to lawyers. These are my opinions, nothing to do with my employer. I'm on my own dime and my own time, so this is where it gets fun. A non-standard disclaimer. This is not technical. This is also where I expect like 20% of you to just get up and leave because this isn't a technical talk. I'm just not the technical guy, but I do think about a lot of the human problems, the psychological things, and in between the keyboard and our brain, those things that are going on. So if you're expecting something different, I'm just giving you the opportunity now. Otherwise, we're gonna be talking about the people stuff, the human stuff. A lot of the things I'm gonna say are hopefully going to be somewhat obvious, but I think that a lot of times we miss things because we don't say the obvious things. So again, it won't hurt my feelings, but I like putting things out in plain, simple, unmistakable terms that are easy to understand. And also, I want to give this presentation because I know that the way that the job market is, there's a good chance that people are going to be the first security hire. You just need to go and do the things. And I'm cheering for you. So if nothing else gets taken away from this, I want to support you and be a sounding board. And when you have the hard days, I'm more than happy to hop on a call or a LinkedIn message or whatever and listen to you complain, because I've done that to a lot of people recently. And I'd love to do that for you too. So about me, not much interesting. Even less interesting one is put down to a couple of bullet points. At my last company, I started as a software engineer. I was really bad at that, so they had me do compliance, and then they had me do security, and I did that for a long time. I'm doing that again at my current company, Plotly, who's doing a lot of really cool stuff, and I'm finding that it's just as hard the second time. Doing new things is hard, who would have thunk? And in the very, very spare few moments where I'm not grinding away behind the keyboard, bad habit of mine, I am a dance dad. My daughter's doing competitive dance. Normally I'd have you say hi, but this isn't being streamed, so that's just fine. All my extra spare time right now is spent chauffeuring, cheering, being supportive dad, and I love that. Also, if I didn't have to work, I'd be talking tomato plants. The farming in me skipped a couple of generations. My immigrant great-grandparents were farmers. Now I want to bring it back. All right, just diving into it, right? I think most of us have worked on a team. Very few of us have worked as the first security person. This is kind of how I feel that even within the security ecosystem, I feel this way, right? A lot of folks like to wait until the problem is big and then we get the shout out, and it makes sense, right? A lot of what we do in security is invisible unless things go wrong, and it's really frustrating. This is kind of how it feels if you've never been the first and only for an extended period of time. You're doing as much as you can, the fires just keep getting bigger. So if you felt this way, I really hope that you understand and feel that I sympathize with you, and that it's hard, and sometimes that's all we can say while we continue to push forward and try and do a little better, make it a little bit easier. There is a period of survival. Just want to call that out again before we dive in how we survive this, how we make better of this. You got to just make sure that you're getting one day through at a time. Eventually, we do get to a point though where, you know what, we're going to come out of it, right? The only time where things just won't get better is where we quit. So, and that's what I want to really cover is, look, these are survival tactics. All right? I meant it when I said this is a survival guide. But hopefully by doing some of these things, we get into a better position where things get better. Not just for us, but for the people that we work with as well. Community is important. Not this kind of community. I don't know if there's any community fans, but I mean, who can skip a good meme? I try and communicate almost primarily through memes. You're gonna be disappointed this time, so I'm sorry, but I couldn't skip this one. When I think of community, I mean, oddly enough, this local B-Sides is one of the ones that I think of, right? People here are really encouraging, really supportive. They love sharing and teaching and giving generally good, positive criticism. And that's what makes us better, right? Listening to Ava's conversation, right? We make things better by caring, by doing, by struggling, and by supporting each other. And that's one of the things that I think is absolutely critical to getting through and eventually getting to a good point when you're the first hire, when you're the first security person. So, I mean, please read. I'm just gonna ramble the thoughts, but I mean, there's just too much to do. There's too much to do, and we're good at a lot of things, but we can't be good at everything. So my encouragement for you is really, I mean, you're gonna hit the roadblocks, and then it's really essential. It's not a nicety. I thought it was a nicety for a little while, but I found it to be essential that when you get into those positions where, you know what, there's just too much going on and you don't know what the most important thing is, and you're getting shut down for the 10th time that day because there's this big, huge thing and no one's gonna let you do anything about it. It's nice to go to people that can sympathize, tell you, okay, this is a terrible situation. It's bad. Also, this is what you can do about it, right? Having both the validation and the suggestions and the support. And it's really cathartic to be able to speak with someone that's been there. So that's why I said, I want to be your cheerleader. I'm in the thick of it right now. And if you're ever in that position, I want to do that for you too. But I've yet to meet someone that has been in that position where I said, hey, look, like this is the situation I'm in. I'm tough. Can you listen to me? Just whine and complain or give me some feedback on this. And I've never had anyone say no. So it's a tough situation. We get better through it together. So I have a differentiation between communities, right? So when we talk about the B-Sides community or the OWASP community, the ISACA, the IIC Squared, those are communities and lots of great examples, great places, right? And you go to events like these to get connected and get the initial connections. And this is where something I didn't think about this before. So over on the right side, you got the SLCISO, Salt Lake CISO Forum, just security leaders out in the area where I'm at. You don't have to be a CISO a lot of the times. You don't have to want to be a CISO. And I'll tell you, I don't want to be a CISO. I don't want the liability. I generally like anonymity, which I feel is contradictory to me being up here in the first place anyways, but here we are. I'm just weird and a goober like that. But again, this is a situation where, you know what, it can only help to be in a room or be connected to people that have felt and done the things that you have felt and are doing. And it's the same thing with like the CISO Society. They're organizations where they are committed to helping you feel and be supported. And like I was saying, right, there's a difference between being part of a community and the community, but then also building your own community. I mean, you could call it networking, but I think we're all sick to death about hearing networking in the non-technical sense. So that's why I'm not going to call it networking. All right, go make friends is one way that I put it. Go talk to people, tell them what you're working on, and chances are really good. They'll say, yeah, I've been there, or yeah, I've experienced some of that. And that's how you build a community that is meant for you and understands you and is willing and prepared to support you. So that's my thoughts on community. I mean, and when I talk about partnership, right, this isn't like, hey, go and find great other companies to work with, right? That's how we usually think about it, right? Especially at these events. When I mean partner, I mean, this is where it's tough because you have to be more giving of yourself. This is where sometimes you have to get out of the security mindset, right? Like you are the security person, you're the compliance person. A lot of what I think is a lot of what I think is not so much how we handle our job, but it's how we handle what the business needs. And like I was saying before, there's just too much to do. I mean, how many of us actually only work 40 hours a week, right? Like nobody. So it's going to get to the point to where you can only do so many things. And I mean, we're going to talk about prioritization as well. I mean, not really much of a spoiler. I feel like I said, obviously, duh, but there's only so much that we can do. And it's important that we focus on the most important things, which is what the business needs. I'm not a corporate shill. I'm not saying, oh, well, the business is asking us to do this, so we do it. But if we do certain things because we want to protect the business, but it's not what the business needs, then we're going to get really frustrated because there's not going to be any buy-in, no support. No one's going to want to work with us because we're doing this, in their eyes, very pointless project. So, like I said, memes, I'm making my own now. I repeat a lot of things in my conference presentations, one of them being what businesses care about, which is money, right? Surprises everybody? Nobody, right? This is a Honda classic. Again, I know this isn't my idea or my concept, and I know it's really obvious, but businesses care about making money. They care about keeping money, and they want to pay us as little as possible to do it. But as we show the value, we get more to help us do what we want to do. And that's really important, right? I don't know if any of you have ever had a budget issue, a budget discussion where you just keep getting turned down for stuff. Probably because the business doesn't think it's important, and that's something that we can address. And a lot of that is done through partnership. So for example, how many of you worked on, goodness gracious, what's the term? AppSec, right? Any vulnerability management stuff? Hopefully some of you, right? A couple of you, right? How frustrating is it to hear, hey, the devs want to address some of these things, but also they're worried about velocity, right? A lot of those terms get thrown out, right? So what we do to address that as well, of course, is going to be security implications there, right? We're managing vulnerabilities. What we do with that isn't saying, oh, well, this is how we're going to secure it, is this is going to make developers' lives easier. Instead of them having to triage and hunt down a bunch of stuff, we just say, we'll build this out for you and it's going to take 40% less time. Code is more secure, it gets shipped even faster, everyone's happy, right? So that's what I mean by partnership, is pointing out obvious problems, not so much in the context of how we feel is important, although that is important, but it's framing it and putting it in a way with the words and the presentations to the right people that this is how it's going to be good for the business. And again, nerd moment. I spent a lot of time doing everything but security. I worked finance and sales and all the other things that I'm really bad at, which is why I'm not doing those, and I'm doing security, which I'm also not great at. But I'll tell you, there's something magical to sitting in meetings with your coworkers. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it just gives this feeling of like team. I think that's part of it. But also it shows, I think, that we care enough to be part of the solution and not just waiting for someone to tap us and say, hey, we found that this is the problem, go figure out an answer for it, right? The more that you sit on these conversations and say, hey, I have thoughts on this, I've experienced that, this is how I've addressed this in the past, or other ideas, it helps. So again, not a corporate shill, but I'll tell you, there's something magical to sitting in meetings, having conversations, sharing ideas, and being a solution maker instead of just pointing out problems. This is an area that I'm really, really bad at. I mean, like I said, I made the poke of like, none of us ever work 40 hours a week, right? It's probably nudging up closer to 60, 80. I know I see a couple of founder friends in here. I know that like y'all are laughing, like sleep, what is that, right? But it's really important to know what the most important things are. And the way that we do that is saying, this is what I'm gonna work on, right? You gotta say no to a lot of things. I'm still bad at that, hence the hypocrisy meter going off the charts. Sometimes you just have to say, this is unreasonable. I can't do this in a reasonable amount of time, or with my current setup, with my current tool stack, with the current load of priorities. It is okay to say no, and no is a complete sentence. I'll also say from a business context, it's really, really helpful to say no because, right? So for example, I mean, I'll give you a live example. We went through the ISO trifecta, so we did security, privacy, and AI. I did that twice last year. Don't recommend it. Pretty awful experience as a human being, but I'll tell you, it's doable to do that with no foundation if you grind through it. It'll also burn you out. One way that I wish that I would have looked back and addressed it and said, yes, I can do that. No, I cannot do it this calendar year. There's just not enough in place, right? So that's where, I mean, and I'm going to address in just a second, but there's ways to say no without saying no, right? As soon as people say no, right, there's something that switches in our brain, flips in our mind where, you know what, it puts up people's defenses. And that's where we have to, again, take that more human approach of, okay, how are we going to solve this problem? I'm not willing to do this. I'm not going to do this, but these are some of the issues. This is how I plan. and propose to solve this problem. Right, there's going to be easy wins. A lot of times this is something that people have been begging for a long time, like just a simple white paper or a one-page policy, something to help the sales process, right? Because everything comes back to money. Anything to help people make money faster is going to make really quick friends and is great for us. But sometimes there's going to be other more difficult things, like getting people to do things that they should be doing and aren't, right? And let's get away from things like security awareness training. Is this conversation that I've been having right now as well. Like, oh, well, we got to do the manual training. Like, look, like, let's talk about how we're going to do it. I'm not saying let's not do it, but let's take a path of lesser resistance, because there's just too much of other things going on. We have to do the really high impact, high value things. If we only have a couple of people doing a ton of things, do the most important things. You do the other things when you have the time, when you have the bandwidth. And a lot of times, right, instead of saying no, you say, yes, we can do this if. But it isn't quite as ideal. But if you say yes, if we do these other conditions, if we can meet these conditions, we come into really good situations or better situations. Because when we're not putting people on their defenses by saying, no, I can't do this, this is unreasonable, right? Which is, I think, the gut reaction, right? If someone says, hey, you got to go stand up a really robust compliance program, you have 8 months, and by the way, there's nothing in place, you're going to feel defensive, and that's reasonable. Instead of, I think, starting that spiral by saying, no, this is unreasonable, it's like, yes, we can do this if this is the only thing I'm working on for the rest of the calendar year. Or yes, if we can hire another 2 people in the next 2 months. Or yes, if I can put off a lot of our security operations onto our IT team, our DevOps, our engineers, right? There's solutions, and that's, I think, one of the cores of what I'm putting out is, look, when you're the first security person, a lot of people don't know how to work with a security team, and you have to teach them that, right? There's a culture that comes with that. And a lot of that comes with very slow, arduous, intentional development of this is how we do things because it's good for everyone, not just good for me, right? Security isn't meant to be, hey, let's be good because it's good for security. This is going to be good for the business for many, many reasons. And it's not something that can be forced. I should have had an aside on that, my goodness. But I have a bad habit of adding to slides very late. I present to you in the last 24 hours my shower thoughts, which I still think are highly relevant to the topic and just things that I wish I'd thought about before. So if you're a team of 1, it happens, right? I mean, you got to start somewhere. It's very rare that you're going to get hired on with a CISO and a full AppSec team and a couple of SOC analysts and a GRC team, right? No, who has money for that? That's going to get to that point without that, right? Chances are you're going to be the first one. I would highly encourage you, if you're ever in a position where you might be hired as the first one, that you have some clear expectations and discussions around, if I'm going to be the only person, how long will I be the only person? And I had a light conversation. I'd be happy to talk about this more out in the hallways, probably better since it's going to be on the internet. But something that I wish I had done was, I started this role under the assumption that I was going to build out a team, with a keyword being assumption. I mean, it was part of the discussion, but nothing was ever finalized. And now I'm having a different experience than what I was expecting, right? This is where we go between expectations and the communication that fixes that into a shared understanding and agreement, right? Reality will always change, right? Budget, requirements, business needs will always change. So, right, you have to be flexible with that. But if you just kind of go in thinking that, oh, well, I'm going to be the first guy, the first gal, I'm going to be the first CISO or head of, and then I'm going to have the budget immediately to go fill out whatever I want, you might be sorely disappointed. And it's a lot better to have that conversation before than after. Burnout's a real thing. I wish I could tell you how to deal with it. Like I said, I'm in the thick of it. I don't say that for sympathy, but it's a real danger. And I think the way to handle this, like I said, this is an open mission. I don't know how to deal with this, but I would encourage you to take care of yourself. Hence all the please say no. Protect your time, protect your boundaries, because it takes a lot more time and effort to get out of it than it does to get into it. And once you get into the point to where you're dealing with that, you're a lot less effective. And it's a steep spiral. So take care of yourself. You're worth taking care of. And I think this is the last extra shower thought that I had, but I think there's different firsts, right? So when I was the first security person at Wistic, at my last company, small company, like 20, 25 people, I was not a good software engineer, which is why they let me take this, so I'd stop building bugs. And it grew very much from a builder, we don't know what we're doing. I didn't either. They said, we need you to do SOC 2. And I said, great, what does that mean? And I figured it out. We figured it out as a team, as a company, and we built around that and built a reasonably robust and scalable program from there. At my current company, at Plotly, they've been around for like 12, 13, 14 years. I should know off the top of my head, but I don't. Sorry, Ben, I love you. But Plotly's been around for a long time, and they've never had a security person, which is why I refer to the culture of building that. Just because the company is robust and experienced and mature, a lot of people have been around 10 plus years in my company, which is wild. But they've never worked with a security person before, and that takes on a different approach and communication style and requirements for the business. So it's important to think about when you're stepping into these roles, what's going to be required of me? How much culture am I going to have to build or instill or adopt, right? You have to be flexible in your thinking, and I think that's something really worth thinking about. Again, when you're looking at these opportunities, be aware of what's going to go into that. Questions, I think? No, okay. I was going to say, another Honda classic, right? I mean, there's going to be way more to do than you're really going to have time to do. And I love referring back to this. I call it the Jurassic Park rule. Someone else, I'm sure, came up with that before, but there's always going to be a lot to do. Pick the most important things and ask yourself why like 3 times at least. Because if you can't answer why you're doing something, if it's not the most important thing, you probably need to reconsider, reprioritize, and give good reasoning and support and planning and coordination with other people that you're working with. Because you know what, you have 2 hands, hopefully you're not going to work yourself into the ground, and that's going to take some planning and preparation. This is why this is falling apart, right? I've had that conversation recently. If there's a lot that's not getting done, and this is why. It's not the most critical. I want to do this is going to be good for us, but we have other more pressing things, is a line that you may find yourself saying. So ask yourself, why are we doing this? Because if you can't answer why, it probably isn't that important. Now questions? Yes, now it's questions. Please, so I'm gonna go to this just so you have the QR. Like I said, it's not malware, but I'd love to have your questions and your thoughts. This, like I said, this is a tough situation to be in, and I know some of you have been in it, and many more of you are looking into it. It's really, really fun, and I hope that, however it turns out, that you'll think of me, and I'd love to be your cheerleader, be a friend, be supportive as I can, and that you also can take from this, you can do it. It takes a change in thinking, right? You don't have a team to tell you this is what we're going to do, but you can do it. I believe in you. Thank you for coming. Please enjoy B-Sides. This is such a great event, and I hope to see you in the hallway. Thank you, everyone.